Hello everybody, Clayton here at etrailer.com. Here at etrailer.com, we install, test, and review tons of different products to help you as the customer make a more educated decision before your purchase. Today I have a 2018 Chevy Silverado 1500 we're going to be taking a look at, and I'll show you how to install the Roadmaster Battery Disconnect Kit. You might be asking yourself, why do I need a battery disconnect to flat tow my truck? The answer is because Chevy requires us to disconnect the battery whenever we're flat towing. And it's a whole lot easier just to push a switch than it is to come up here and actually remove the cable every time and worry about that bouncing around and possibly making a connection. Our battery disconnect is going to be one of the key components in our flat towing setup. We have our battery disconnect, of course, our tow bar, our base plate, our safety cables, our supplemental braking system, and our diode wiring. This is what our battery disconnect is going to look like installed. It really doesn't take up that much room, and having that peace of mind of just pushing a button to flat tow our truck is very nice. We do have a solenoid right here that gets mounted on the back of the firewall. You just have to make sure there's a valve on the bottom that just has to be facing down. It's pretty easy to install. One nice feature is that it includes all of the hardware necessary to get it installed. And whenever we disconnect our battery, you'll hear a nice click. And we'll know if it disconnects or stays connected. In terms of installation, getting our battery disconnect installed really isn't that bad. We're not going to need any major tools. Don't really have to cut anything. It's pretty easy to do. Speaking of installation, I'll show you how to get installed on your Silverado now. To start our installation, we want to find a good flat mounting surface that's going to be nice and strong, but is also close to our battery. As you can see, it's kind of tight over here. But on the back of our firewall right here, we have plenty of room to mount our disconnect, and it's right next to our battery, so that's going to work out great. Our next step is going to be to run our gray wire inside. Our gray wire comes out right here. We are going to want to run our gray wire to the inside of our cab. I've pulled that out right here, and I've already gone ahead and just zip tied it to that factory wiring. That runs all the way across with our braking system wire. Our gray wire is right here. Drops down behind our wiring and straight down in through our factory grommet. We can now take a self-tapping screw and mount our solenoid into the firewall. We don't want to tighten that one down all the way until we get the other one started. With our solenoid secured, we now want to take off the cover for our battery. All we're going to do is simply lift up. Kind of have to pull out around the edges and work your way around, just like that. And then we'll slide it out of place and set it off to the side. Now we're going to take this nut off using a 10mm socket. Then we'll disconnect our terminal from our battery. They're not loose, we can pull straight up on our terminal. Then we'll take it off of this side. Using a 10mm socket, we'll take off that other side. Now we'll just pull this off. We're going to have two cords coming off of that solenoid. One is going to say battery cable, and one is going to say battery post. Right now we want to use the battery cable. I'm not going to route that cable that says battery cable underneath our other cables. Since this one's a little bit closer, that'll just kind of help take some of the slack out of it and make it look a lot cleaner. So we'll run under just like that, and up and through. And then we'll reinstall that 10mm bolt that secures it down. We now want to grab our battery post cable. I'm going to run that under our other battery connection cables as well. We'll leave it just like that for now. Now we can grab our heat shrink provided, just put it over our cable like that for now. Then we'll grab our new hardware, this bolt and our star washer. We'll set that on there like this. Then we'll add our star washer to the back side. Then we can grab our factory battery post, add that on there, thread on our nut, and tighten it down. Grab a 13mm socket and wrench and tighten down that nut. Now I want to slide our heat shrink up and over our hardware, just like so. That way both sides are covered. Then we can grab a heat gun and shrink it down. We're actually not going to connect this yet. We still need to ground our system and add our switch. So for now, I'm just going to set our cover back over everything. That way we don't have to worry about it making contact. Leave it just like that for now. We don't need to secure it down. Now we just want to ground our ground wire to the negative terminal. Just want to pull our ground wire close. We don't want to make it too tight. We'll snip it right about here. Grab our wire strippers. Strip back the end. We can grab one of our ring terminals provided. We'll just crimp that onto our wire. Now grab a 10mm socket and take that nut off of our battery terminal. With that nut taken off, we just want to slide our ring terminal over that screw, just like so. Then we'll reinstall that 10mm nut. Here's that gray wire we pulled into the cab of our truck through the firewall. We now want to find a good mounting location for our switch. We want it to be easily accessible, and we don't want to have to drill into any of our leather dash lining here, so this underbody panel is going to be our best bet. We're going to have two T15 Torx bits located underneath our dash panel. We need to take those out now. With those removed, simply just have to pull out on our dash panel. Just like so. When we lower down our under dash panel, you can see this metal backing behind it. So we're not going to have to drill through any of that. On our left side down here is going to be our OBD2 port, so we're going to want to stay away from that. This location here is going to be our best bet, because it's just plastic. It's going to be real easy to get through. Now I'm going to draw out a hole to the size specified in our instructions. Like I said, we're going to get as close to this metal as possible. Just clean that hole out a little bit, and we can flip it over and clean up our access with a utility knife. We now grab our switch. We want to make sure to take the nut off the back side. We can push it through our hole. Our switch pushed in. Now I'm going to grab that nut and spin it around to the other side. Then we just want to tighten our nut down just a little past hand tight. Now we just want to trim back the insulation on our gray wire to expose our black and our red wire. You want to be careful not to cut the wires when you're doing this. With our insulation cut back, you can now grab our wire strippers and strip back a little bit of each wire. Now I'm going to grab a small Phillips head screwdriver and unscrew the set screws on our switch. Just like that. Then we want to take our red and our black wire and slide them through. And it doesn't matter which one goes on which side. So we'll start with our black wire. We'll just slide that through like so. Then we'll tighten down that Phillips head screw on top. And we'll repeat that same process for our red wire. With everything installed on our switch, we now want to reinstall our dash panel in reverse order that we took it apart. Now we just want to zip tie this wire to some factory wiring underneath to keep it secure and out of the way. Moving back to our engine compartment, we're ready to take that cover back off and slide on our battery post. Again, we're going to try to route that the same way that we did the other cable. just like so. We will slide that on and tighten down our 10mm nut. We're going to have to do some trimming on our battery cover. I'm just going to trim off this whole flap. Those wires take up a lot of room, and trimming this off will still give us a good seal. I just used my utility knife to cut that flap off. It is pretty thin plastic. We're now ready to reinstall it. It is going to stick up a little bit here on this corner, so if you'd like, you can trim more out or just leave it alone. Now ready to add our fuse. We're just going to peel back our fuse holder, and we can grab our 7.5 amp fuse provided and just push that into our fuse holder. Just like so. Now we can close our cover and test everything out. Testing everything out is super simple. We just want to grab our key, we'll put it in the ignition and turn it. Nothing's happening, so then it's in the off position. We'll switch our key back to off. Then we'll hit our battery disconnect. You'll hear a nice clicking noise. Then we can turn our key to on, and the truck's going to power up, so we know it's working properly. That's going to conclude our look at and the installation of the Roadmaster Battery Disconnect Kit on our 2018 Chevy Silverado 1500.